You thought we scraped the bottom of the weird car barrel in part 1? Not even close. We're diving back into the deep end of the Barrett-Jackson auction block, the place where strange isn't the exception. It's the main event. Barrett-Jackson's auction block has seen everything from Batmobile wannabes to backyard science projects on wheels. And we've got 10 more of the wildest, wackiest, and most wonderfully bizarre rides ever to hit that legendary stage. So grab your popcorn and get ready, because part 2 gets even stranger. Number 10. 2010 Western Concord Stagecoach Replica. Beginning our list is a stagecoach that has no engine at all. A 2010 Western Concord Stagecoach Replica, sold at the 2025 Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction for $78,100.
T on, I'm gonna get down T on up here, and 72,000 on it, I'm gonna get down to, and I have sold.
But this isn't some dusty relic that's been sitting out in the sun for a century. This beauty was recently restored by the master coach builders over at Hanson Wheel and Wagon Shop in South Dakota. Folks who know their way around a hammer and some hickory. What you're looking at here is a faithful recreation of the original Abbott and Downing Company Western Concord mail coaches, the kind that used to rumble across the Butterfield Overland Trail. It's 14 feet long, nearly 9 feet tall, weighs 2,400 pounds, and rides on white oak and hickory wheels, 44 inches up front and towering 60 inches in the rear. The suspension? Forget coils or air ride. This bad boy bounces on 300 feet of 3-inch leather, strung in a thoroughbrace system that gives it that signature rocking motion. Back in the 1800s, that bounce was considered luxury. The details are where it really shines. We're talking 24-karat gold leaf scrollwork, hand-forged luggage rails, leather boots front and rear, and a foot-operated brake system that'd take calves of steel to manage. There's room for 9 inside, and if you want to go wild, toss 5 more folks on the roof. That's 14 passengers, cowboy style. The body's a bold blood red, with straw yellow gear that pops like a Saturday morning cartoon. It even came with antique luggage, a leather whip, and a prop rifle in a scabbard. Funny enough, this stagecoach had never even been hitched to horses. It lived a clean, pampered life indoors as a museum piece. Talk about mint condition. Now, if that didn't turn your head, buckle up. The next one's even wilder. But, before then, go ahead and touch that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, what are you waiting for? 9. 1973 Chevrolet Corvette Twin Mill Custom Coupe. This car, which looks like it escaped a toy box and grew up mean, sold at the 2025 Scottsdale auction for a jaw-dropping $163,900. It's a life-sized Hot Wheels car, inspired by the legendary twin mill diecast designed by Ira Guilford, a Hot Wheels Hall of Famer. Moreover, get this, it was built by none other than Tommy DeFranzo, better known in the custom world as Twin Mill Tommy. Now, let's talk specs. This monster packs two 350 cubic inch V8s, built by Big Al's Toy Box, one of the wildest engine shops in the game. That's 500 horsepower total, split between 2 roaring mills, each hooked up to a TCI 3-speed automatic transmission. The exterior? Pure visual chaos in the best way. It's coated in a purple passion base, layered with a ruby red clear coat. And let me tell you, when those lights hit it on auction night, the thing lit up like Las Vegas. Inside? Leopard print upholstery, white leather trim, and purple stitching like some 70s fever dream. The interior doesn't just whisper custom. It screams it through a megaphone. And the leopard print, it's everywhere. We're talking under the hood, on the seatbacks, center tunnel, steering wheel. Now here's where it gets really interesting. It's got a 3-seat setup. Not 2, not 4, 3 seats across. But it gets better. The buyer didn't just get the car. It came with a custom Hot Wheels display trailer. Clear sides in the back, so as you roll through town, folks can see that purple jungle beast glowing under the lights. It's like a rolling museum exhibit for grown-up kids with deep pockets. 8. Batmobile III. The number 3 Batmobile was sold in 2025 at Barrett-Jackson's Scottsdale Mega Auction for $495,000. That's nearly $500,000 for a fiberglass and galaxy mashup straight out of Gotham, and yeah, it's just as crazy as it sounds.
200. 200. 200.
Now you'll notice we've got multiple bidders. We got somebody on the telephone. We got somebody on the floor.
Now, this isn't the original Batmobile. That one's been locked up in the collector vaults for a while. This is Batmobile number 3, one of 3 stunt and promo cars built by George Barris at his legendary Barris Custom City shop in November of '66. It was based on molds of the original TV Batmobile and dropped on top of a 1966 Ford Galaxy chassis, complete with that unmistakable forward-tilting nose and bubble-top canopy that made every kid in the '60s lose their minds. However, this weird baby actually appeared in the original Batman series, starring Adam West and Burt Ward. Barris originally built the first Batmobile from a 1955 Lincoln Futura concept he snagged from Ford after it had a bit part in the 1959 rom-com It Started With a Kiss. When demand exploded after the show's January 1966 debut, 3 more were whipped up in just a few weeks, including this very ride. Car number 3 was used for drive-by shots, stand-ins, and made the rounds like a rock star in the late '60s. It showed up at the Oakland Roadster Show, the Hollywood Christmas Parade, where Barris himself drove it with his daughter Joji in the passenger seat, and then spent decades touring as part of a direct from Gotham City display. After bouncing through a few collections, it landed with Dr. Stuart Berkowitz in 2011, who had it restored to its crime-fighting prime by Keith Dean, son of the legendary custom builder Dick Dean. George Barris even signed off on the restoration personally, issuing a certificate of authenticity when he laid eyes on it. So, why didn't this Batmobile break the bank? Good question. The bidding was lukewarm, even by Bat standards. Some expected it to go for over $1 million, considering how pop culture collectibles have exploded in value. But the final hammer dropped at $495,000. Still a fortune, but in the world of superhero memorabilia, that's almost a steal. Number 7. 1957 BMW Eetta 300. Now, if you thought a 6-figure Batmobile was odd, get a load of this golf cart-sized oddball that rolled off the block in 2021. The 1957 BMW Eetta 300. It sold at Barrett-Jackson's Houston auction for $46,200. And yeah, it's about the size of a college dorm mini-fridge. But don't let its tiny footprint fool you. This little bean-shaped wonder saved BMW's bacon back in the day. You see, in post-war Europe, BMW was on the ropes. Motorcycle sales were falling, and the company was bleeding cash. Then, they stumbled onto the design for the Italian-made Eetta. It looked like a spaceship had crashed into a washing machine. But hey, it had potential. BMW licensed the design, slapped in their own 298 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine, and the Eetta 300 was born. With a top speed of about 53 miles per hour and fuel economy that made Priuses blush, up to 70 miles per gallon, this thing became a hit in gas-starved post-war Europe. The version sold in Houston was completely restored by the experts at Eetta R Us in Woodstock, Georgia. They did it upright: new tires, brakes, custom red leather interior, sliding side windows, a canvas sunroof, and even a period-correct luggage rack with a vintage suitcase perched on the back. It's basically a picnic basket on wheels with just enough space for 2 small adults and a whole lot of nerve. There's only one door, and it's on the front. The entire nose of the car swings out like a fridge door, with the steering wheel and dash coming along for the ride. Climb in, shut it tight, and off you go, feeling like a 1950s cartoon villain in your personal bubble. 6. 1965 Austin Mini Moch. This next one looked like a toy, but it was real, really weird, and really British. At lot number 352 during the 2023 Palm Beach auction, a 1965 Austin Mini Moch rolled onto the block and quickly stole the show. Not because it was fast or flashy, but because it looked like something you'd drive on a golf course or a movie set. Actually, you'd be right on both counts. This little white and blue oddball, complete with a striped convertible top, was styled after the Moch that appeared in the 1973 James Bond flick Live and Let Die. Roger Moore wrote in one, and now someone else did, for just $19,250. Now, the Mini Moch has a backstory that's as peculiar as its face. Designed by Sir Alec Isagonis, the same guy behind the Mini, it was originally intended for the British military as a lightweight, air-transportable vehicle. They codenamed it the Buckboard. The problem was that the military hated it. Not enough ground clearance. Couldn't handle rugged terrain. One Army report said the only thing it was good for was riding on aircraft carriers. But failure breeds creativity. When the military said, "No thanks," Isagonis didn't throw in the towel. He doubled down. The Moch was repackaged for civilian life, eventually becoming a quirky beach buggy. In fact, it found cult status in sunny spots like the Caribbean, the Algarve, and even Australia. Think of it as the cooler, weirder cousin of the Mini Cooper, only with fewer doors and way more attitude. This particular example was restored with the original 4-cylinder engine and 4-speed manual transmission, both of which were pulled out during restoration and reinstalled when everything was freshened up. It even has an electronic ignition now, so it's got a touch of modern reliability under its vintage skin. Right-hand drive, blue interior, new seats, mahogany steering wheel. It's got charm oozing out of every corner. The British Heritage Museum even authenticated it, which added a layer of credibility to its quirky appeal. There are more powerful cars out there, sure, but this Moch had something better. Personality. For under 20 grand, someone got themselves a conversation piece that's as rare as it is ridiculous. Number 5. 1953 Moshe Micro Panel Truck. This one takes strange and moves it up a little. Meet the 1953 Moshe Micro Panel Truck, sold at the 2014 Scottsdale auction for $33,000. A truck that's smaller than some modern motorcycles. Welcome to microcar madness. This rare little guy was built by Georges Moshe, a Frenchman better known for making recumbent bicycles than four-wheeled vehicles. Georges took over the family company from his father Charles, who had been building pedal-powered cars since the 1930s, and turned his eye to gas-powered oddities after World War II. The Moshe is not just small, it's practically a toy truck. Powered by a 125 cubic centimeter Zuscher motorcycle engine and a 3-speed transmission with reverse, this micro panel truck was about as tough as a riding lawnmower. But man, it had charm. Restored to concours condition, it looked like something you'd see delivering bread on a cobblestone street in 1950s Paris. The body is steel, the wheels are solid discs, and the whole thing looks like it could have rolled out of a cartoon. It even had soft covers for the cabin and the cargo area, because you don't need air conditioning when your cab is basically a glorified tent. What makes this truck so strange isn't just the size or the design, it's the fact that it exists at all. France had a post-war culture of microcars due to fuel shortages, and Moshe leaned into that niche. But even for a microcar, this one's rare. Like, one hand count rare. There are only a handful known to exist in the entire United States. When it hit the Barrett-Jackson stage, reactions were a mix of amusement and fascination. People weren't quite sure what they were looking at. A couple of folks thought it might have been a movie prop. Others guessed it was some kind of scooter with a roof. Then the gavel fell. $33,000. That's not pocket change, folks. But for a collector of European oddballs, this thing was a unicorn. Moreover, it wasn't just the looks. The truck actually runs and drives like new, which is saying something for a 70-year-old micro-utility vehicle with a motorcycle engine. It's more useful for delivering croissants than concrete. But who cares? You're not buying this for work. You're buying it for the pure joy of owning something this outrageously different and downright weird. Number 4. 1968 Ford Chitty Bang Bang Recreation. Sold at the 2025 Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction for a cool $77,000. This 1968 Ford recreation of the famous Chitty Bang Bang car is about as whimsical and bizarre as it gets. Now, if you're a fan of classic family flicks, or just remember being glued to the tube as a kid, you probably recall Dick Van Dyke as the quirky inventor Caractacus Potts in the 1968 movie. Well, this ride right here is a full-blown tribute to that magical flying car that could float on water and take to the skies with a flick of a switch. While this one won't exactly lift off the ground or cruise the English Channel, it looks like it could. Underneath all that theatrical charm is a 1968 Ford chassis, cleverly disguised with vintage-style carriage lamps and a custom-built wooden body that stretches from the cowl to a rounded boat tail. It's got separate compartments, like an old-school horseless carriage, and the vibe is pure pre-World War I elegance. Think more Edwardian speedboat than modern car. Just when you think it couldn't get more nostalgic, there's a brass plate mounted under the dash, signed by the man himself, Dick Van Dyke. That alone could make a grown man tear up if he grew up humming the film's catchy theme song. The vehicle was part of the Dr. Stuart A. Berkowitz collection, And despite its theatrical looks, it was sold on a simple bill of sale. No title, no VIN, no drivetrain specs. The real magic here? It's not just a car, it's the story. Moreover, in a world obsessed with horsepower and carbon fiber, sometimes a whimsical throwback is just the kind of strange you didn't know you needed. 3. 2005 Ford Excursion Custom SUV. The 2005 Ford Excursion Custom SUV that rolled across the block at the 2022 Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach auction and hammered down at $66,000. Let's get one thing straight. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill family hauler. This thing was built like a monster truck that took a wrong turn into a luxury lounge. The Excursion started life as Ford's biggest SUV. And when I say big, I mean it made a Suburban look like a compact hatchback. But this custom rig, this thing was straight up unhinged. We're talking a 16-inch custom lift. It rode on 24 by 14-inch American Force-forged rims, wrapped in massive 40-inch Toyo MT tires. Just climbing into it probably required a stepladder and a little prayer. Under the hood was a freshly built, bulletproofed 6.0-liter Powerstroke diesel V8, tuned and ready to haul small buildings if needed, or at least intimidate everything else on the road. It had all the goodies: Fox coilover shocks, hydraulic steering assist, a Plan B 4-link lift kit that looked like it belonged on an armored military vehicle, and custom-painted suspension components in copper orange that gleamed under the auction lights like candy-coated steel. The bumpers were completely custom, front and rear, loaded with Rigid Industries light bars that could probably light up a football stadium. But it had some, let's say, personality marks. According to the Carfax report, this monster rig had a couple of incidents in its past. One involved bumping into another vehicle back in 2008. The other? It smacked a utility pole in 2010. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to make it pre-loved. Also worth noting, the ABS light was on and inoperable, thanks to the custom brakes. Not exactly a surprise when you're stopping a lifted skyscraper on wheels. The final gavel dropped at $66,000, and considering the sheer amount of work and customization packed into this SUV, that felt like a bargain. You couldn't build it for that today. You might not even find tires that big at your local tire shop without a special order. Number 2. 1974 Dodge Monaco Bluesmobile Recreation. Picture rumpled suits, dark sunglasses, soul music raised to the highest, and a car so absurd it became iconic. That's right, we're talking about a 1974 Dodge Monaco, a dead ringer for the Bluesmobile from the Blues Brothers, which crossed the Barrett-Jackson stage in Scottsdale, 2025, for $38,500. It came from the Dr. Stuart A. Berkowitz collection and was built to recreate the original as seen in the 1980 cult classic. This car had the whole package: the obligatory black and white cop look, push bars up front, a roof-mounted Cold War-era loudspeaker for blasting out R&B gig announcements, and even police-style distress graphics that looked like they'd been through a few car chases of their own. Talk about wild! In the film, Elwood Blues famously says, "It's got a cop motor, a 440 cubic inch plant. It's got cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks." And while this particular recreation doesn't pack the exact same punch, under the hood it's got a 2-barrel 360 cubic inch V8. It still captures that gritty, outlaw charm. The Bluesmobile is pure movie magic. With over 100 vehicles wrecked during the filming of the Blues Brothers, the original stunt cars were largely obliterated. This recreation pays homage not just to the film, but to the era of big iron, practical effects, and when cars had character, and maybe even a soul. Every dent and decal on this Monaco is a love letter to that insane film. While $38,500 might seem tame in the world of multi-million-dollar Ferraris, it bought someone a chunk of cinematic history that'll make heads turn at every stoplight. Let's just hope they didn't try jumping any drawbridges on the ride home. Number 1. 1977 Ford F-150 Huna truck. Now, our last car didn't just turn heads, it blew them clean off. Ken Block's mind-bending 1977 Ford F-150 drift machine that tore across the Barrett-Jackson auction block in 2025 with a final hammer price of a jaw-dropping $990,000. Forget farm trucks or weekend cruisers. This beast was built to shred tires and rewrite the laws of physics. It all started when Ken Block, the late rally icon and viral video madman, teamed up with Hoonigan and Detroit Speed to craft a modern-day monster from the bones of a classic pickup. What came out of the lab was part hot rod, part spaceship. Under the hood sits a twin-turbocharged 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, sourced straight from Ford GT Le Mans development. We're talking 914 horsepower and 702 pound-feet of torque, all screaming through a Sadev 6-speed all-wheel drive gearbox. This thing launches like a bat out of hell and corners like a race car, even though it started life as a 1977 F-150. But the real insanity? It's in the details. The intake manifold alone took 150 hours to 3D print. Ford claims it was the largest 3D printed car part in the world at the time. The body panels are hand-hammered military-grade aluminum. The bumpers, carbon fiber. The wheels, custom beadlock forged aluminum wrapped in Toyos. Even the grille and emblems were Cerakoted, like tactical gear. The Huna truck starred in Gymkhana 10, drifted down historic Route 66 in Texas, and then conquered China's Tianmen Mountain, the so-called Heaven's Gate, in Gymkhana 2. That road climbs 5,000 feet and is considered one of the most dangerous on the planet. But to Block, it was just another playground. The inside is just as wild. Full carbon fiber dash, Recaro Profi SPA race seats, and even a backup camera and remote start through Ford Pass. It's like a Le Mans prototype, and a lunar rover had a baby and raised it on octane and adrenaline. When the truck rolled up at Barrett-Jackson, the crowd already knew the legend. Phones came out, gasps were heard, and the bidding war took off like a nitrous hit. Media buzz followed it like paparazzi. It had been listed for $1.1 million back in 2021, but after Block's tragic death in a snowmobile accident in 2023, the emotional and cultural value skyrocketed. For fans, this wasn't just a truck. It was a symbol of Block's legacy, his daredevil spirit, and his love for pushing machines past their limits. This wasn't just one of the strangest vehicles ever to cross the block. It was also one of the most powerful, one of the most technologically advanced, and easily the most outrageous. Nearly $1 million for a Ford pickup. Well, there you have it. Another round of retro oddities and custom creations that defy logic and good taste. If you're a fan of freaky fenders and cars that look like they belong in a comic book, hit that subscribe button now. We've got plenty more strange steel headed your way from the wild world of Barrett-Jackson. See you next time.